All right, so if we think about like we view, so this is sort of like a process that unveils, right? So one is that we think that there is this label that is assigned to people by the criminal justice system, right? So this could be, you're officially sentenced for something or something else, right? Once this is assigned, then the label is internalized. We view ourselves, as being whatever this negative label is, right? So we think we're a bad person, we're a felon, we're a criminal, things like that. And then this leads to, our labeled actions. So we start acting like, the bad person that we've been labeled to be because we believe we are like that, and so on. And once we commit these actions, then they're reinforced because there's negative consequences. People think we're bad. They continue to tell us that we are bad people, and so on, right? So there's a lot of like negative consequences associated with that. So once this happens, right, like there's a lot. What do we do with this then, right? So the idea then is that by calling people bad, this then leads to more bad behavior. So if we think about, like, if we accept this is true, then, what is like a policy or a change in policy and action related to this? So one example of this is going to be to not label people. So, if we change like the words that we use to refer to people and we change the connotation related to that, right? So if you think, sometimes this is, often like the justification for like person first language. So we see people or individuals as people first before labeling them. So instead of saying a homeless person or someone, a homeless guy or something like that, this is a person, experiencing, homelessness. Another one, an example of this would be like instead of using like a felon, this could be formerly incarcerated. Or a system involved person is sometimes another word that's used. If we think about, something, sometimes like, when, like like for a long time, right, you would also see like, people would refer to people with different ethnic backgrounds as like, they're either blacks or they're whites or, Latinos. Now you'll see more of an effort to be like, these are, black people or white people or Latino people, right? To emphasize that they aren't like this group, right? But these are actual like human beings associated with that. So, that's sort of like one aspect of it. And the reason we want to do this then, the goal then is to lessen the stigma associated with the label. Another one would be like an addict. So someone who has a heroin addiction, right? So this is a person who has experienced substance abuse. Sometimes, right, it kind of is a mouthful, right? But all of it is about lessening the stigma with the label and to reduce the harm associated with a term like that. One, because it's like kind of traumatizing, right, to feel like that. Like there's a negative connotation for some of these words, right, that people don't feel very well about, and they may react to you very differently based off of that. Another policy, like kind of implication, right, is that this happened a couple of years ago under the Obama administration. it was something that was called ban the box. So when we think about like ban the box, the idea is that on like applications for federal offenses, I think. So an application can't have a felon box. So check that you have a felony when you apply for a job. But that information can only be revealed only if like you have been like made it to the final round of interviews and it comes into the background check, right? The goal of that, right, is to have people evaluate you and your skills only instead of focusing on that label. That is the intent of that kind of measure, right? Especially since it's really hard to have a job. To get a job is like, if you have a criminal history and if you're trying to have successful reintegration, that's kind of important to do that, right? Another way that we often see this kind of come out is in terms of diversion. So instead of having people go through prison or for having a mark on the record, sometimes people are given this role of going to like a probation program. And if upon successful completion, they never get labeled as like a criminal or offender. And especially if it's like a first time offense. So this is a chance for them to not, carry a record around with them. One example of that that actually happened in my own personal life is that I had a roommate, how long ago was this? It was about 10 years ago, who broke into my room when I was on a trip and stole checks from my room and then wrote checks to himself, forging my signature and everything like that. And ended up, I caught it and then I reported it. He was arrested for it, but he went through a diversion program where even though what he did, he committed 2 felonies since it was 2 checks. Rather than face it and take it, he ended up being diverted, went through a probation program, and now doesn't have a record for it. So, you acknowledge a mistake. And the hope then is that rather than hurt someone for life, instead what you end up doing is that you give them a chance to heal and to redeem themselves and make things whole again, right? So that is the ultimate goal out of it because of them. Now, the part that, you guys could do, amongst yourselves or in like a group chat or something, whatever, because I'm sure there's a group me that I don't know about. So anyway, what you guys could do then, right, is focus then, like, how would this explain? So what criteria apply to this kind of labeling theory process, right? If we really sat down and understood it. And also, how would this explain various correlates of crime? So if you guys can do that on yourselves, that would be really wonderful. But we'll